Today I'm going to start the process of pulling the engine in my Mustang and doing a few upgrades. I am doing this because I discovered one of my head gaskets was bad. What my code reader was telling me was an upbank O2 sensor issue. I looked at these O2 sensors, and as you can see, the one on the left is white, which either indicates the engine's running really lean or it is burning coolant. And my engine was running incredibly rich. You could tell by the smoke coming out of the exhaust, and it was very thick white smoke too. It smelled like fuel and coolant. I started taking it apart with that recording. What I've taken apart has been the alternator, the two ignition coils, the radiator reservoir, the bracket to these two coils, this throttle bracket right here. I've also taken off the drive shaft and the H-pipe, as well as drained the transmission fluid and obviously disconnected all of the O2 sensor connectors as well. Also took off the transmission cross member, which is just two 14mm bolts, I believe. And then you are also going to need to disconnect this clutch cable right here. Your shifter and bezel and everything are also going to have to come out. And before I forget, you're also going to want to unbolt the 4 bolts in your power steering pump and the 3 bolts in your AC condenser. Next thing that we're going to have to do is disconnect the wiring. Most of your wiring is going to be disconnected with this main disconnect right here. So you're going to take this bolt out. That's out. That huge pin plug will just come right out. Disconnect these connectors as well. I don't have a free hand, so I'm going to do those when I put the camera down. Got to remove these coolant lines that go to the heater core. Now it's time to take my intake off, so I'm just going to take all of these connectors off the injectors and off of the thermal sensors for the coolant. You want to release the pressure out of your fuel line, so you'll take this cap out. And you'll see under is sort of a bicycle style tire valve, or just a tire valve in general. And then you'll just take your screwdriver and release that pressure. Last bolt back here is kind of hard to get to, but I need to take this intake plenum off. And to do that, I need to take the EGR off. And I would highly recommend putting some penetrant on these bolts because they do rust on there pretty good from the heat. All right, to take these fuel line connectors off, you're gonna need one of these fuel line disconnector kits. You're just gonna put the right size on. This one is a half inch fuel line, and you're just gonna and that should come right off, just like that. And there's some gas. That's off too. Now that everything's disconnected, this thing should just right out. And there is your intake. That's my engine. Now I'm heating up the surrounding area of these upper transmission bolts because I red Loctited them in. Okay, so I was trying to, I'm about to pull the engine. I have to take these 2 motor mount bolts out first. So 21mm. That's the first one right there. And the second one, I think I need to take my oil filter off to get it off, because if not, I get like 1-tooth rotation of the ratchet every time. So I'm gonna take it.
So we have one last coolant hose to pull off.
Yeah, I think it's gonna come off now. Yep, I missed it. So
see if we can get it pulled out.
You just like come out.
Well, the engine's out of the car. Not without
What a
long, hard struggle.
Yeah, this thing.
You can tell by the fact that it's just sitting on the pavement.
Yeah, well,
here's the crane. You can tell us if that looks like it's supposed to. And the radiator fan housing. But hey, the engine's out.
So a little look at the engine bay. So one of the reasons I pulled the engine, other than my head gasket leak, was that my oil pan gasket was bad, and you can kind of see that with all of the oil that is leaked out everywhere. Strut towers, you know, they'll start rusting like that, which is fine. But if you let them get out of control, I mean, it can total out your car. I mean, it gets pretty bad. So I will be tending to those two items. Power wash the engine that we pulled as well. If you do this, just be careful not to power wash the intake ports.
All right, JP, what are you doing there?
We are getting ready to weld because the crane got messed up and we still need to use it. And it back, but the weld is cracked right there, which you can kind of see it. And then I'm also just gonna weld all this. So a little walk around of this engine since I've got it on the stand. So first thing that you'll notice, the motor mounts, are gone. The oil pan is kind of bent from when I dropped it when it fell off the crane. Broke off one of the AC compressor bolts, and I thought that it was gonna be broken off right in the hole, and I was gonna have to use an extractor, but it broke outside of the hole, which is nice. So I could probably just get a vice grip around that and pull it out really carefully. This side motor mount is destroyed as well. Make sure to put your cam holding tools in place. So first, you're gonna take the circular piece, and you can actually see it. You're gonna insert it right into that slot right there, and it's just gonna press right in like that. And then just take the sliders and slide them right into place.
We can't get this freaking bolt off.
Yeah, whatever.
Good time.
I bet this side gasket's gonna be bad. Now time to take the oil pan off. Ooh, and there it is. Got a little cloggage in the oil sump area. Bottom end actually looks pretty good. This oil pan gasket is shot though. And now that we've painted the engine block, we're going to move on to replacing the piston rings and the connecting rod bearings. So I put these piston rings into the bores to measure the ring gaps. And as I put the feeler gauge in, it seems to match up best with this gauge, 18 thousandths. So the piston ring gap in the Haynes manual says almost 40 thousandths, which didn't really make a lot of sense to me. So I ended up asking the Ford 4.6 builders group. Highly recommend joining that if you're doing anything like this. And just a general rule, if you want to calculate your ring gap for a naturally aspirated engine, it's the bore diameter times 0.0045. So that equals about 16 thousandths with a plus or minus 2 thousandths tolerance. To the rear main seal plate, which is this piston right here. And we'll just start by breaking those two connecting rod bolts. Make sure to support the end of the rod too. And make sure it does not contact the cylinder. My connecting rods and pistons have some debris on them, and I'll take the piston rings off and then give them a light once over with the Brillo pad. And you're really going to want to clean it out good if you're going to reuse your pistons. And there's your piston. A lot better than before. The bores at the very outside like to have some crap build up. I don't know if it's from the actual head gasket itself or something else, but just give it a good scrub. Time to stack the rings on the piston. And if you buy it from, at least if you buy it from Engine Tech, there's 4 bags and they tell you exactly which grooves they go into on your piston. So you're going to have 2 of these thin retainer rings for the oil ring, and they're going to go around each side. And then you're going to have 2 compression rings right there. So you'll see we'll just slip it in just like that. And then the 2 side rings will just go right into those slots. These things are on sale at AutoZone for like $5 right now. So you'll just take it and put it over right into the, I'm going to do the second compression ring first. Just like that. First compression ring. So we're going to be removing the rod bearings. See, they're a little worn just from. And before installing the new bearings, make sure to wipe out anything from these ring caps. And then we'll just put the rings right in. Same deal for the piston or the actual rod side. To install the piston, and the direction that you're going to put the piston facing is going to match up with these dots. So these dots are on the right side of these pistons all across the engine. So you're going to put that in, check in back, and make sure that the rod is not about to hit something. I'm actually going to move the crank a little bit. I use the butt end of my ratchet. Just be very careful, but the piston is aluminum, but you're not really going to break anything. But if you feel resistance, stop and look in your bottom end because it's probably hitting something. Sink it. Just give swift hits. And your piston ring insulation tool is just going to fall right off. Always just use some of this oil stabilizer as an assembly lubricant and just put a little bit on the contact surface. I'll put the end cap on. Now I'm going to torque all of these rod cap bolts. The factory torque spec is 33 foot-pounds and then an additional 90 to 120 degrees. Gonna go with another ratchet and just torque all of them to another 90 degrees. And wow, that is difficult. So I've made the decision that since I have them, I am going to do the crank bearings in this engine because I might as well just do it when it's out. I'll be tightening the main cap bolts. So what I'm going to do is I have a pattern from the Haynes manual that I'm going to follow that's going to make sure that the bolts are tightened in the perfect way so that everything is centered right where it needs to be. So I have my 3/8 inch torque wrench where I'm going to torque the main bolts. These get torqued to 33 foot-pounds the first go around, and then the second go around I'm going to torque it another 90 degrees. The side bolts, I'm going to use my 1/4 inch torque wrench, and they get 7 foot-pounds the first go around, and then another 17 to center out the main caps. Spacer on and torque it to about 30 foot-pounds, and then we'll put the sump itself on. Didn't take a lot of pictures, but this engine is now built. So this engine itself, some changes. So the cylinder heads are Romeo PI heads, and they have Ferrera oversized valves and stage 2 VT cams, which are now Cushman Motorsports cams. You can see the timing cover is now a single bolt tensioner. That's not by choice. It's because I ended up breaking the 4-bolt tensioner. Long story behind that. The same water pump that I just replaced. And then we have the Ford Racing PI intake, of course, with some 24-pound injectors from an Aviator. And then I have the adapters for those injectors to fit with the wiring harness. We have the same fuel rails from the PI intake. I forget what brand this plenum is, but it's on American Muscle. It's basically got it for pretty cheap, but they're like 400. The valve covers I bought from a guy who already painted them. So those are cool. The old ones were a little rough. And then to top it all off, I would have loved to do long tubes, but instead got a set of BVK shorty headers, oil pan, and engine mounts. Now, replace the vacuum lines. Where are they? Right there to the underside of the fender right there. I also wire wheeled and paint and PRR 15, and then painted the strut towers. Changing the fuel pump while I'm at it, so I have to drain this tank. Remember, when you drain these, you only have to connect it to the discharge of the pump. This is just the return, the larger diameter. And it sounds like we're getting some bubbles, so. Took the stock fuel pump out. Here it is. And we're going to replace it with this Excel 500 series. Should support up to 700 horsepower, which we are not even getting close to. So, well, I have the new fuel pump installed into the stock sending unit, and that's the size difference. So, a little bit bigger. And had to solder in some new leads there, as you can see. Kind of dark in here. So, about to put that in. All right, first start. Ooh. Ooh. The blade on the throttle plenum was not set correctly, hence the idle issues. That was fixed later. Let's go! Let's go! That sounds just an exhaust hanger that I broke flopping around. It's not engine knock. It was fixed later.